album is amazing, though.
Is it?
Oh yeah, it's arguably one of Kanye's best albums, in my opinion.
Is that what he's like touring and promoting right now?
I don't know. He was supposed to have another album drop the night of SNL, but never came out.
Interesting. See, I've always liked Kanye as a musician and as an artist, but yeah, dude, like you said, he's fucking crazy.
And he's always been crazy. Like people act like it's new. I'm like, no, he just is crazy the other way. He was a crazy leftist. Now he's I don't know what he is. I don't even say he's right wing. I don't think he knows what he is.
No, I think he must just be kind of caught in the controversy, which is smart. Yeah. It keeps you relevant, you know.
And I do think he believes everything he says. I just don't think he's a good voice for some of the points he's making, because he's probably the least educated person on all the issues that he's bringing up.
Hey, man, I'm pretty uneducated myself. What's up, everybody? Thank you so much for stopping by. I'm Jeremy, and movies are terrible. And joining me, as always, is Caleb of Caleb Says Stuff. Caleb Miles, what's up, brother?
I decided to put my beverages now in a coffee mug, the world's biggest coffee mug, since we're not endorsed by any of the beverages I drink. Not that it's ever going to happen. But if they ever want to pay me, then I'll support the can that I'm holding.
That is like, it reminds me of the Mobile Leprechaun. Did you ever see that picture? It was several years ago, man. Because we're like an hour drive from Mobile, and a couple years ago, there were spottings in the hood of this leprechaun, and somebody drew, like, there was a suspect drawing of it, or like, what do they call them? They tried to replicate what it looked like, and it was this fucking goofy, like a stick figure, man.
Did see that. I forgot. That was, a couple of years ago.
It was a while. You guys get the Mobile Leprechaun reference, right? Let's see if anybody is in the chat.
And if they are, no one got that reference.
Yes, no, there is not. You guys are so missing out. We got a good show planned for you this evening. As always, we are going to talk a little bit about what we've been watching over the past week, and we're going to get into a bunch of movie news headlines this week. We're going to kind of fly through those, and then we're going to touch down on this topic about Russian bots and The Last Jedi, as well as the fact that it was recently revealed that the reason the Venom score is as low as it is because there were potentially Gaga fans that were manipulating the votes with bad reviews. Did you hear about that?
I did. People have too much damn time on their hands.
Yeah, it's crazy. So yeah, we'll get to that here in a minute. I literally just saw the story about 30 minutes ago. Let's see. But
I saw it yesterday, and I just read it, and I didn't even read the article. I literally read the headline. I was like, that's enough.
I'm good. I've fucking put together everything I need to out of this story.
Yeah, I was like, that's it. I get it. People are stupid. People are terrible. That's the moral of it.
Hey, well done, actually, guys. If you are not following People Are Terrible on social media, make sure that you're doing that, because Caleb and I are putting in work over at People Are Terrible on YouTube. We're doing about 4 videos a week. That's one full-length podcast. I'm still trying to get my rhythm with all of that stuff. The postings have been a little bit wonky lately, but we are smoothing out the edges as we go. And I think I might have told you, Caleb, I'm planning on ordering a couple of things for the background here. You know how Joe Rogan has those bricks?
Mm-hmm.
They're not real bricks.
Fake ones, yeah.
What is that called? Don't fucking say fake bricks.
Brick siding or something?
I was wondering, like, I was trying to shop for it, and what I keep coming up with is like it's like thin vinyl wallpaper, and I don't know if that's the same thing, because the bricks...
No, that wouldn't be it. I would say like faux brick siding probably would be it.
I'm going to keep looking, because I want some texture behind me. I don't think I want to go the brick route just because everybody else does it. I think I kind of want to go with like a wood grain kind of thing. I want like a 4x8 to just stick right behind me. I think it'll look good, because this background I got it's just basic. But I think we talk about this every podcast.
Mine's not that special. I mean, I got a TV with a light behind it, and you can kind of see my fireplace over here, which is, there's no point. But oh well, it works.
For a minute there, dude, I thought you were again on location, and that was actually a window peering out into...
That is actually window. There's just lights around the window.
Where are we at right now?
We are in Transylvania. There's Dracula's castle right there in the back. Yeah, so
good for the holidays. As we get closer to Halloween, we're going to be talking to you guys about some horror-related content. That's some of my favorite stuff. But we'll go ahead and move into this week's segment of What Are You Watching? And before we started recording, you mentioned to me that you that you're watching a TV show. What, you want to tell me about that?
Oh, yeah. I've been watching nothing special. Walking Dead Season 8 is now on Netflix, and I watch everything on Netflix, so I'm catching up on that, and I love it. I mean, I actually think it's much better than Season 7 was. I feel like this is the culmination of what's been going on there, so it's a very action-heavy season, but it's built to that, so it doesn't. I know a lot of people had a problem with the action. I'm actually enjoying it. But what I mainly been wanting to talk about was a movie I watched called The Animal World, or Animal World.
I told you I was going to sit down and watch it. I haven't yet. I definitely plan on it, but what's the deal with it?
It's a bizarre film. It's a Chinese film directed by, I want to say, Yan Han or Han Yan, one of those two. And it's a visually very interesting film. There's almost some like Snyder-esque Sucker Punch visual cues, like that type of directing in it, where it's like over almost directed at times. But it's a movie about, I don't know if you want to say too much because you'll spoil it, but it's a movie about a killer clown with samurai swords and rock, paper, scissors. The entire movie is about rock, paper, scissors. That's the plot. A
clown, a samurai sword, and rock, paper, scissors.
Yes, and it's arguably my favorite film of the year. I'd say it's up there with like Annihilation, the Isle of Dogs, and A Quiet Place. It's definitely up in that like top 5 for me.
What kind of tone are we talking about here on this one?
At times comedy, at times very serious, and it concentrates a lot on math. So if you think math is interesting and you're able to keep up with the math they're doing, it is a very well-written film. Like, it's surprisingly well-written, and it's a lot of math and rock, paper, scissors.
Well, bizarre. You piqued my interest with that synopsis. Hadn't seen a good rock, paper, scissors movie, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't think, and Michael Douglas is in it. It's a Chinese film, but Michael Douglas is in it.
Man, I'd imagine we're going to start seeing more and more of that. I mean, when you look at movies like The Meg that just now got released, and very international cast, but it all took place in China and Hong Kong and shit. So I think moving forward, there's going to be a lot more American actors showing up in Chinese movies and vice versa. Where did you see that at?
So it's on Netflix right now.
Oh, you can watch it on Netflix.
Yeah, so it's a movie I've been dying to see. I saw the trailer a couple of months ago and was like, it's one of my most anticipated, and then I could never remember the name of it. I was like, what is that movie? And I Googled, like, clown, rock, paper, scissors movie, and, like, nothing came up. And then it came up on Netflix, and I was like, there it is. That's the movie I've been dying to see. And it definitely lived up to the hype, but it's one of those films I wouldn't recommend to everyone. Like, if someone walks away and absolutely hates the movie, I think it's kind of a perfectly valid decision to make on the movie. It's a weird movie, but I loved it.
So you recommended that to me when I said Hold the Dark is really good. Did you see Green Room or Blue Ruin?
I own Green Room, but another one that I've never watched.
Highly recommend it. The director's name is Jeremy Saulnier. This is his 4th film, Hold the Dark is, and it takes place in like the Alaskan wilderness. There is a woman whose child goes missing. It gets drug off by wolves, and she hires this like nature writer who's an expert on wildlife to come and try to help track down the wolf that did it. Well, meanwhile, her husband is off in either Iraq or Afghanistan. He's a soldier over there. When he catches word of what happened back home, he comes back, and it like the whole town goes to shit. I don't want to get too far into it because I want to avoid the spoilers. Part of the fun is just the what the hell is going on. But there's definite like mysticism tones, horror tones, survivalist kind of thriller tones. But it's very, very vague. The story it's very thin, but I think it's by design. So it's super ambiguous. And what you said about recommending it to people, I don't think I could recommend it to just anybody, but I would recommend it to you because I think you might get something out of it, you know?
That's exactly how I felt about Animal World. I'm like, I recommend it to like 3 people, and they're all kind of the people who are into the into cinema. You know, it's not a movie like I would. Well, actually, I'd say my wife. I was gonna say I wouldn't recommend. I would now because she watches a lot of weird stuff after being married to me so long. But
yeah,
like,
she's been inundated.
Yeah, like she's like, I like that weird movie. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
But it's definitely very specific. That's how hold the door. Is that
Hold the Dark?
Hold the Dark.
And Victoria literally watched about 30 minutes of it and was just like, fuck this, and she didn't want to be anywhere near the movie. It's intense. And same with Green Room, dude. They're very visceral, and with violence a lot of times in movies it's very much glorified or glamorized or whatever. A lot of clean deaths and shit. Like, you don't think twice when you see Indiana Jones shoot somebody, but like every punch in these movies, you fucking feel it. And like, that's just the thing. The movie, it excels in the atmosphere, and the way it's shot is fantastic, but it just builds this really uneasy feeling that really did sustain through the whole thing. And it stars Jeffrey Wright, who's like the main guy from Westworld. So that was pretty cool. I've been watching a bunch of TV. We don't have to get into all of it. I think I've mentioned it a couple of times on other series or on other episodes, but I'm in Fargo season 3 right now. It's fantastic. I'm in season 2 of Get Shorty, which is actually airing right now, and I recommend that to anybody who's a cinephile because of the way that it kind of shows you how films are made and produced and all of that kind of stuff. Have you seen that?
No, but I love the original Be Cool series, so both of them go. Okay. I think they're phenomenal. So is that the one that's a Crackle original, or am I thinking of
Epix?
Snatch?
Close.
Epix. Okay, yeah. That's what it is.
That other one that nobody watches.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, there's 2 shows. One is Snatch, based on a movie that I love, and then Get Shorty, based on a movie I love. And they're both trapped on these things that no one watches.
Oh, hold up. There's a Snatch TV show based on the Guy Ritchie movie?
Yep. It's I want to say it's the kid from Harry Potter, the redhead. It is Rupert Everett or whatever the hell his name is. He's in it. Yeah. It's on Crackle. I've watched the trailer 3 times. Looks awesome, and I've never watched a single episode.
Venice Beach, what's up, my man? Every time I go on to Screen Junkies news live feed, I see you in there commenting. I want to engage, but I don't know if I have to like pay, because the option for me to type into the chat wasn't there the last time I was on there. I don't know if it's a super chat. I'm so out of the loop of what's going on YouTube these days.
Yeah, I never understand any of that. Like, I've only backed like 1 or 2 people on Patreon, and but I've never done, like, I know you can subscribe to now people on YouTube and all of that. And,
yeah, I don't know much about it.
Any of that works.
Speaking of Patreon, guys, head over and check out Movies Are Terrible, the Patreon page. We got a couple of donors, and I really do appreciate it. And I know it sounds cliche. You're not keeping the lights on. My day job does that. But in order to continue to kind of upgrade and buy equipment, buy backgrounds, and all that kind of stuff, it does help, because, believe it or not, Google AdSense ain't paying out that much these days.
You don't like your, 5 cents every 6 months?
Jesus Christ, dude. I cashed out one time with like $116, and now I'm just letting it accumulate.
I think the most I ever got was back when I had an old podcast, and it was like $50 or something like that, and but nothing since then. Yeah,
it's slim pickings, and there's a podcast I went on the other day called What Was I Saying Podcast. You guys should check that out. We got pretty ripped in the middle of the podcast. It was a lot of fun to record, but man, we ran the gamut and covered so much obscene shit. I'm glad that I was able to get it out of my system on his show. You know what I mean?
Instead of doing it on People Are Terrible or something?
Yeah, either of them. Like, we're not tarnishing the brand by not...
Oh, the People Are Terrible brand is going to be tarnished, trust me.
So, are you guys checking that out, by the way? I'd actually love to get some feedback. Caleb and I recorded an episode on Sunday, and then I totally wasn't recording the audio on my end. So we didn't redo it. We decided we're going to let all of the kind of pre-recorded ones that we have run through the cycle, and then we're going to start trying to hit more topical within the past week kind of headlines. Not always, but we're going to be doing a little bit of that, so you guys stay tuned. He says streaming is new to YouTube, so nobody really knows how to do it yet. Yeah, I'm figuring it out. There's little things that here and there that I need to kind of spend the time, watch the YouTube video of how to do it, because I'm sure it's already out there, and it's just as simple as that, but I'm lazy, I guess. What else, man? I went and saw Hellfest on Friday.
And I got to hear what this was like.
I mean, what do you think it was like, dude? It was the best fucking movie of the year.
That's your number one?
It is my number one. Yeah, if it doesn't sweep the Academy Awards this year, I'm going to be shocked.
It'll get Best Popular Film, don't worry.
There was like 6 people in there when I went. I was like, God damn, this is like opening weekend of a horror movie in October. Where is everybody at? And
that's like 5 more people than I expected that movie.
I was excited though, because I knew, I'm like, oh, it's a slasher movie in a haunted house theme park or a horror amusement park. That sounds like great potential. And that was definitely the best part about the movie, was the haunted attraction. You know what I mean? Like the set design and shit was cool, because it's like they're in this big haunted house.
Like the concept was what made it in the background, but the movie itself probably was garbage.
Characters sucked. Story sucked. I mean, it was conventional slasher movie, only more realistic slasher villain. I mean, there was no supernatural aspects to him. I like the fact that, you know, in this amusement park, everybody's under the cover of anonymity, whatever. They're under that cover of not anybody knowing who they are because of the masks, so anybody could be the killer. They could switch off a mask or whatever. So they played with some cool things. I guess if I was going to rate it out of 5, I would probably give it a 2. But that said, I think it would be a movie that would be fun to watch with friends in the Halloween season, like drinking beer and just kind of joking at it, you know?
That was like last year when Friend Request came out. Awful movie.
Horrible.
I had such a good time with it. So like we went and saw it in theaters, me and my wife, and it was so bad and cheesy, and we just enjoyed it. It was just like the 2 of us in the entire theater, and it was fun.
Okay. Venice Beach Sports Network wants to know, I haven't watched People Are Terrible. What do I type in to find it? Start with People Are Terrible. See if that pulls it up. Let's see. I think, what are some of the last videos we did? Let me look real quick.
Yeah, as I say, People Are Terrible. I know if you scroll down, it has the splatter, the ink splatter with the white ink. Is it a white ink splatter with black background?
Mm-hmm. And then a little person in there. You should be able to find it. Let me know if it comes up when you Google that, just so I can know to tell everybody else. I actually appreciate you asking, because I don't know. I don't know nothing. Let's see. I do know that
we talked about fat people. I know, but I don't know what we called that episode.
Oh yeah, that's what I know a bunch of the topics. I know we had one that was like a bug heist, and that was the one with fat people on it, obese people.
Yeah, that was fat people and bugs we talked about in the same episode, and then we talked about straws. So we're really doing hard-hitting subjects.
Yeah, fuck that fluff. We're hitting only the hard topics.
We've got some comments. We've made some people angry when we talked about body modifications.
We did. I tried to get some feedback from them, but they punked out. They just decided they didn't want to engage with me, which I don't understand.
No, that happens to me all the time. Somebody will say something on Twitter, and I'll be like, hey, yeah, so I disagree with you, but what's your opinion? Please explain. And then they never say anything. Cause
argue with me, God damn it.
Yeah, I'm like, just talk to me. Hey, I'm cool. I'm a grown-ass man. You can say you disagree with me. I'm fine with it.
I wish that they would have heard the People Are Terrible episode, because Caleb last time was like, I got a fucking bad haircut the other day. And Caleb was like, oh, you got to go. I go to see a barber. Every week? Is that what you said?
Yeah, every week.
All right, whatever.
Well, like every other. Yeah.
So I went today, honestly, first time. Well, that's not true. I went to a barber one time a couple years back, and it was a different experience. It was like this old barber. But anyways, really cool. If you guys are here in the area, it's called East Hill Barber Shop. Coy was the one that did it, and super cool. They offer you a beer when you're hanging out. Got good music playing on the playlist, and it was a good vibe. So anyways, I wanted to thank you for that, and I will be going back.
I'm telling you, you made a good choice this time, and I'll say it, which people will get pissed about. But you never ever if you're a man, never ever let a woman cut your hair. It has to be a male barber. That's my general rule.
I can see that. I can see that. I was thinking like Sports Clips is like the Hooters of haircuts. You know what I mean? You know what Sports Clips is?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I would never go there. I think Hooters is even weird. Or like, was it Twin Peaks?
Yeah.
Like, I don't want no booty shorts around my food. Like, that shit's unsanitary.
Twin Peaks. That's where my coworker wants to get dropped off after work every day, and I've never stepped foot inside that place.
It's like this set of like a hillbilly porn.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and move on to This Isn't News. We got a bunch of not news headlines to talk about with you guys today. Caleb, I just now sent you a link on Twitter a minute ago. I don't even know if you had a chance to check it out, but there was a trailer for Apostle. What'd you think about that?
I thought it looked actually really good. It looks like something that would be a decent watch. I got vibes of, I'm trying to think of the movie that I was thinking of, like, but much better, but like Sleepy Hollow, those type of things,
okay.
But like well directed. Yeah, that's kind of the vibe I got.
I was looking at it like The Witch or like The Wicker Man. Mm-hmm. You know, it's one of these like religious cult horror movies. Looks to be a period piece, kind of similar to the way The Witch was. It's directed by Gareth Evans. Gareth Evans is the guy that directed the Raid movies. He directed The Raid 1 and 2, and he's done other things, I think, but those movies are phenomenal. I think it's interesting to see him go in a direction that's more story and character-driven and less action-driven, you know?
I would like to see him, because my exposure to The Raid is I was shit-faced drunk and I watched them. And I remember kind of liking them, but I was, like, way past the point of, like, a buzz.
Yeah,
know?
Right.
And so I don't know if they're actually good. And, like, I don't know, kind of that exposure to them, I've never gone back, but everyone tells me, like, I would be, of all people, would be obsessed with them.
That's what I was thinking, but now that I've told you that, I think I know you well enough to know that you would probably be more dismissive of it because I told you you would like it.
You're like, yeah, it's all right.
Yeah. It's not as good as you said it was. I understand that. I get that way for sure, which will probably come up here in a little bit. But yeah, I'm excited about that. It's a Netflix movie, so if you guys are subscribed, it should be coming out pretty soon. I think it looks like it could have a very creepy vibe to it, and it also looks like it's going to be hella disturbing, which a lot of times cult movies are. Like the end of the Wicker Man, the original Wicker Man, is just like, oh fuck. But
I've seen the original. I've never seen the remake of Wicker Man.
All you got to do is type in Wicker Man highlights into YouTube, and it will bring you to a montage of Nicolas Cage knocking chicks out. Like, that's the whole... It's like a sizzle reel, a 5-minute video of Nicolas Cage just punching chicks in the face, and like, oh, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I'm sure that that wouldn't go over so well these days.
No, it probably wouldn't. It would be the Russian bots or the ones behind it.
It's fucking Russian bots, dude, ruining things for everyone. Let's see. It's the name of the channel. It takes some scrolling. Fantastic. Thank you. Appreciate it. Maybe once we actually get a couple views, it'll get bumped up towards the top. So you guys do us a favor and help spread the word. Let's get the word out there. All right, well, we got a couple horror headlines before we move on. I just kind of wanted to start it off this October with some horror. Coming up next on the list, it looks like Jordan Peele is producing the Twilight Zone with Silent Kimberg. We're here 59 years after the release of the original film, so it looks like they'll probably be launching it as like a 60th anniversary kind of thing. What do you think about the match, man? Jordan Peele and Twilight Zone.
So is it I read the article, is it a show or a movie they're making based on it?
It's a show.
Okay, because I was like, at first I thought it was a movie, and I was like, I'm not that excited. But a show, I'm all about it. I'm a huge fan. I've seen every episode of The Twilight Zone at some point in time. I actually rebought it probably when I was 20 years old on DVD and binge watched the entire show, so I love it. But I don't know. I have mixed feelings. I think Jordan Peele is a great fit for it. I think after especially what he did with the social commentary and all that, that's kind of what Twilight Zone was, like the social commentary.
Absolutely.
Horror film. But I also think of the, was it the 90s or 2000s Twilight Zone show, the one with Forrest Whitaker?
I never saw that, but I was aware that it existed. Yes, the originals are classic. So it wasn't good?
No, it's okay. I mean, it's not horrible, but it's a typical anthology series, and it didn't really grab me.
See, that's my first on the positive side of it. I do think Jordan Peele is a fantastic fit for this. I think, just echoing what you said, he was able to do a feature-length episode of The Twilight Zone with Get Out, which is essentially what it felt like to me. I mean, I was thinking that, watching it, like, wow, this seems like the kind of themes that they would deal with. And yeah, that original Rod Serling series is something, especially the first 2 seasons. I just watched those things over and over again. And it was cool. It kind of reminded me of Tales from the Crypt in the way that you would actually see a bunch of famous actors in the Twilight Zone. I mean, Terror at 20,000 Feet, I think is what it was called, with William Shatner in it, with the "There's something on the wing." So yeah, okay, sorry, got sidetracked. Yeah, he's a good fit for it. I'm excited to see it. And that's about it. On the negative side of it, man, Black Mirror is doing everything that the Twilight Zone could do already, and probably better.
See, that's where I kind of am at with it. I haven't even watched Black Mirror, but from what I've heard, it's Twilight Zone. It's a sci-fi Twilight Zone.
It's exactly right.
And I always said, like, for me, it was Twilight Zone, and then Tales from the Crypt was the true successor to Twilight Zone.
Absolutely.
That was always, it wasn't the remake of it. And I kind of feel like unless this is just done phenomenal, I think it's going to get compared to Black Mirror, which everyone seems to love, and it's getting a lot of critical success. So I don't picture this being as huge of a success as they're thinking, but I don't know. It could be the next big show.
Yeah, that's a good point, man. It's coming on CBS for one thing, which doesn't exactly scream, the kind of content that we're usually getting. I hear Star Trek's good, but I don't see this like becoming a cultural phenomenon, because I mean there are just so many shows out right now. It's become saturated, and it's hard to kind of see through the noise. So I just don't know that this is going to be the one that does get pushed out into the ether or into the public conscious. But yeah, here's to hoping. I certainly am going to be checking it out, and I will report back to you guys, let you know how it is. I mean, is it something you're going to watch the first episode of?
No, I don't even have, unless they put it on streaming. Hulu throws it up, because I don't even have I don't watch normal TV.
Yeah,
that's fair. So I'm kind of in that boat. So if they throw it up on Hulu, I'll check it out, because I'm just a fan of the original. But honestly, I think it's cool. I have zero desire to watch it.
What about it? I mean, okay, never mind. You're not getting CBS All Access for it, I take it.
Hell no.
All right. Yeah, I don't think I will do that either. We'll see. I mean, I guess, I don't know. I doubt it. There's so many things to watch. So Venom, I guess, finally got screened to critics yesterday, and a lot of negative reviews, but also positive reviews in the mix as well. I swear, dude, ever since the first trailer came out, you and I have been on opposite sides on this. Ever since the first trailer came out, I've been very apprehensive of the movie, and just I wasn't vibing with the effects. I wasn't vibing with the tone of it in the trailers. I love the way that they made Venom look, but there's just something about it wasn't sitting right with me. And maybe it's just the fact that it's made by Sony, and they've got a track record of fucking up Spider-Man stuff. So I've been apprehensive since the beginning. But I know you were a little more positive on it, right?
I kind of did the opposite of what other people did. So the first trailer, I was super pumped. The more trailers I saw, the less positive I got about it. Because the first trailer looked like a slower, a little more methodical film. And then as it went on, it looked more like a early 2000s comic book movie. But for me, I'm fall on this thing where the bar for comic book movies is so low for me, because I hate almost every single one of them.
Yes, you do.
So I think that's why going in, I'm always like, when people are like freaking out, they're like, it's a garbage film. I'm like, yeah, like all the other 50 comic book movies that came out, it's a garbage film. So my standard's so low that if it's a mediocre film, I'm okay with it.
I know you don't give a shit about this, but it is sitting at a 28% on Rotten Tomatoes right now, and then it looks like the average rating on IMDb is a 7.2, so there's a little bit of a discrepancy there. Let's see, it's got a 91% want to see, and I hate how the user ratings, you can rate whether you want to see it or not, and that somehow goes into the score.
So stupid.
It really is.
Like, it doesn't matter. I can't tell you how many movies you do this all the time. You're diehard wanting to see, and you walk out and you're like, well, that was the biggest disappointment.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so being enthusiastic about a movie doesn't equal the movie being good. I'm curious to see it, though, by some of the reviews that I've read and some of the things that I've heard about it. It actually seems kind of interesting. I like the fact that it's not so... we do expect a certain level of quality from the Marvel movie. And I expect a certain level of quality. I expect a certain level of, good effects, good writing, humor, all of these things that... From one Marvel movie to the next. Typically, if they're produced by Disney, they're going to have that certain... Even if they're not phenomenal films, they're all going to be good, but you know what you're getting. With Venom, it's kind of like I have no idea. Even now, I have no idea what I'm getting out of it. I hear that it's got a more comedic tone and a buddy cop tone than anything I was expecting to get out of it. Is this something you're going to check out?
Yeah, I'll check it out, but I heard the comedic tone, and I was like, that is not something I wanted. To me, that's the joy of getting something outside of the MCU. I'm excited when Sony does something because it's not going to be comedic, or when Fox does something because it's not going to be as comedic.
Sure.
So when I heard it's like a comedy thing, I'm like, then fucking just give it back to MCU and let them handle it. If they're going to do comedy anyway, then just hand it over.
Yeah, I can definitely see where you're coming from. I didn't feel like the comedy part of it is really something that was true to the Eddie Brock and Venom characters. That said, I'm all for taking liberties. You don't have to be beholden to the source material, like Caleb has mentioned before. Depending on who's writing the comic book at the specific time, it's going to be a dramatically different character, depending on how that writer wants to interpret it or slightly change it. So I'm cool with that. I do think that Tom Hardy elevates everything. When I found out from being as negative on it as I was originally, finding out Tom Hardy got casted for it gave me a lot more confidence in it. And then hearing that Woody Harrelson was going to be in it, I was like, well, shit, they're busting out the big guns for this,
Mm-hmm. That's the thing is with me is like I love Tom Hardy, but I'll be honest, I really love Tom Hardy, but from the trailers, it looks like a pretty bad performance from Tom Hardy. Everything that I've seen.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. It does. We'll see.
We'll see. It looks like a weird take on the character, though. He's kind of fidgety and weird. I'm like, that's not who Eddie Brock is to me. But again, it could have changed in the comics. I don't know who that character is now.
He's on Adderall to appeal to the millennials.
Apparently.
Anyways, all right. Also, out of Sony news, we got our first look at the Mysterio costume. So, Mysterio is being brought into the fold with the live-action sequel to Spider-Man. I think they're calling it Spider-Man Far From Home or something like that. He's not going to be in New York in this one. He's actually going to be over in Europe. Anyways, Jake Gyllenhaal was cast to play Mysterio. Did you see the pictures?
Yeah, I saw it. The one I saw was he had the no helmet on. I'm assuming that's the only picture that's out.
It is.
Yeah, and my thing is, I heard some people get mad about that. I'm like, first of all, you don't know the helmet could be digital, first of all, and there are going to be scenes. You don't hire Jake Gyllenhaal and put him behind a freaking mirror fishbowl the entire movie.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's they're going to do it. They're going to put the fishbowl helmet on him. I have a pretty good feeling. And I'm cool with that. I like that Marvel has gotten to the point where they used to shy away from superhero costumes, and they have went full tilt with this one. And to be honest with you, the Vulture is a character that never should have worked on screen, and I thought Michael Keaton fucking nailed it. One of my favorite villains.
That's what I've heard. Keaton's a hell of an actor. I still haven't seen Homecoming, but it's one of those things that, like, Keaton's a phenomenal actor. I think Jake Gyllenhaal's a phenomenal actor, and I actually like Tom Holland as a Spider-Man. I think he's a good young Peter Parker. I would like to see him grow and get into the older, more mature, a little more serious Peter Parker, but I think he nails that perfect awkward teenage Peter Parker. I'll maybe check it out, on Netflix or something.
I'm gonna tell you, man, if nothing else, because it skews very young, even for a lot of the Marvel movies, as far as just being geared towards a teenage audience. But like Michael Keaton in himself is, I think, a good enough reason to see it, because he pulls off. I think he was the prototype for actually doing a good Marvel villain, because Killmonger came out afterwards. He was fantastic. Thanos came out afterwards. He was fantastic. But I really do think they kind of got a firmer grasp on what people wanted out of villains, that layer of sympathy and that layer of humanity, instead of just being a real cartoonish kind of caricature like Green Goblin in the original Spider-Man was.
Yeah, I always that whole old cliche and old adage where they're like, if you want to make a good villain, write him as the hero first, and then flip it.
Yeah, that's a good call.
I think that's a smart way to do anything. One of my favorite films all time, Princess Mononoke, has the greatest villain in it because you totally understand where they're coming from. It makes 100%. And honestly, sometimes I think I kind of agree more with the villain, and I think that if you can do that, that is phenomenal writing.
You know, I've never heard that before, but that is a really good point. And I've also always heard actors say they're not playing the villain. Like, no, I not to me. You know, like they've always got to find a way in, find a access point. And I'm not going to say never. I'm sure there have been a lot of, actors that really leaned into the scenery-chewing villain over-the-top kind of thing, but I do like it when they're more nuanced, and hopefully we'll get that out of Gyllenhaal. I know he's got a very emotive face. His eyes are, all big and doughy, and he's really good. I loved him, and there's been a couple things he wasn't in. The irony is not lost on me, though, that, the first major role I saw him in was Bubble Boy. Now he's Bubble Man.
I didn't even think of that. That's very true.
He just came to me.
He's a hell of an actor, though. I liked him in the Denis Villeneuve film. I cannot think.
Enemy?
I didn't necessarily love the film. Yeah, but he was great in it.
Yeah. Nightcrawler he was fantastic in.
There's Source Code.
Yeah, that was really good. There's one called Southpaw. Did you see that boxing movie that he was in?
I never saw it, but I know exactly what film you're talking about.
It was very good. I was surprised at how mixed the reviews were. People didn't necessarily love it. I guess you've seen a lot. I mean, people have seen a lot of boxing movies, and there was some, it's another boxing movie, but Jake Gyllenhaal the dude's committed. I think he's one of those guys, kind of like a Christian Bale or he's not just a movie star, and he picks interesting projects, and I think he's going to be one of the actors that's around for a long time. I'm actually surprised to see him attach himself to one of these franchises.
I am too, because he's kind of been leaning the other way. He started off as more of a leading man comedy, and he's been leaning very indie film and kind of weird, and Enemy is a perfect example of that. That's a weird movie.
It's a fucking cool movie.
Yeah, it's I don't even necessarily say great. I don't know if I loved it, but it's still a great film.
Yeah.
And I think I'm interested to see what he does with that. I don't know how deep he'll take that character, but from what I've heard from you and a bunch of other people about Michael Keaton's performance, it gives me hope that Gyllenhaal will be able to do the same thing.
I am pretty sure, and I don't want to type right now in front of you guys or make you hear it, but I'm pretty sure that Jake Gyllenhaal was either considered to recast as Peter Parker in Spider-Man 3, or he was originally up for the role of Peter Parker when Sam Raimi started the series. Did you ever hear that?
Yeah, I heard he was up for it. I don't know if he ever, at one point in time, that's what I heard.
Okay, yeah, that's kind of cool. So another little kind of coming back around thing.
He would have been a good Spider-Man, I think, at the time. I actually still think he would make a great older Spider-Man.
Yeah. Most definitely. And so we've got Michael Keaton playing Batman, then Birdman, then the Vulture, and then we've got Jake Gyllenhaal as Bubble Boy, then he's Bubble Man, and he used to actually almost be Spider-Man. And the director's name is Mark Webb, who I actually think they hired because his last name is Webb, and all those Marvel movies just direct themselves at this point.
Yeah, I was going to say, exactly. They're like, that guy's name, he's not going to have much creative control anyway, but his name fits.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they just slap a director down in a director's chair and are like, all right, now you sit here and shut the fuck up. Don't you say anything. Yeah. All right, anyways, we'll go ahead and move on to Fox News. You heard me right. That's Fox News. We're going to talk a little bit about what's going on over in the world of what the Fox. They're releasing a PG-13 Deadpool movie.
So is that confirmed? Because I heard that, and I was like, that can't be real.
Oh yeah, it's 100% confirmed. What's not confirmed is what it is. Right now they're calling it an untitled Deadpool movie that's rated PG-13, and we saw that little framing device that is similar to The Princess Bride. It's actually exactly the scene from The Princess Bride, only Deadpool is playing the grandfather, and Fred Savage is like an adult man in the bed. So it looks silly. I can't imagine it being anything other than a PG-13 cut of Deadpool with either additional scenes or reworked stuff, because there's no fucking way a actual movie would have gotten through production without you or I hearing anything about it.
Well, that was my thing. So I heard it's a cut of Deadpool 2, cut down to PG-13, that they're re-putting in theaters.
That's what I heard.
Which is weird. That makes no sense. And I think it's... and honestly, I think one of the worst things you can do if you're a fan of Deadpool is go support this movie in theaters. It's one of the worst things you could do.
I agree with you, and I see so many people that are excited about it, and I'm like, what is there to be excited about? This is exploitation. If you're
and then let's say it does well, then that encourages them to do a PG-13 Deadpool 3.
And that's exactly what they're doing right now. That's what I think this is about. We all know that there is a merger and a transition that's coming soon where all of these characters are going to be in the hands of Marvel. And I feel like this is testing the water. How are audiences going to respond to a PG-13 Deadpool? Are they able to pull it off? And so on a positive side, kids under the age of 17 will get a chance to see a Deadpool movie without their parents, or be able to go in there and enjoy this character. But on the negative side, like you said, this is potentially going and seeing this movie is going to reinforce the idea that a PG-13 Deadpool should sell. And I guess I'm not here to say that it couldn't work. I just feel like what made him work is the fact that he was able to cut loose from all of the tropes and traditions of all of the other superhero movies.
Well, and I said this since the Disney Fox deal. I've said it a million times since it was announced. I said, kiss Deadpool goodbye, kiss the good thing we got Logan before, because you're never seeing those films again. I would go as far to say is I think you'll get one more maybe Deadpool movie with Ryan Reynolds, and they'll recast him into the MCU, reboot it. I think they're going to reboot every single one of these characters into the MCU.
God, that's so that's a tough pill to swallow. Without Hugh Jackman as Wolverine and without Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool, as invested as I got in those actors as those roles, it's going to be real tough for me to accept other people as those characters. And not because nobody else can do it, but just seeing the passion and the drive that those guys had to be those characters it's pretty unusual in a way. You know, like you see a lot of actors that are married to the projects that they're attached to at the time, but seldom are they just so committed to the role that, fuck, dude, was Hugh Jackman Wolverine for 2 decades or something?
And we got, in my opinion, one of, if not the greatest superhero movies of all time, and Logan out of him because of that. Like, and my thing is, I think a lot of people, Marvel needs to tread lightly with Logan specifically, with that character, because I think a lot of people are going to see what I've seen with Marvel for a long time. The second Logan starts making kitty, dumb little quips and jokes nonstop, I think people are going to go, ooh, well, that's not my Logan.
Yes. You know? Yeah, I know I will.
And they're going to turn him into every character Marvel's Tony Stark. So to think that he would be immune to it, I'm like, no, he won't. I'm like, every single character, even Hulk, now Thor is now Tony Stark. You don't think Logan's going to be Tony Stark now? They're all going to be quip-filled, snarky characters, including that character. And I think I hope they prove me wrong, but I'm 90% sure that's what's going to happen with that character.
Hannah G, we see you. What's up? Welcome. Thank you for stopping by. She says exploitation and allows them to take the opportunity to backtrack. Yeah. I think that's kind of what we're touching on, is the fact that it's a way to kind of, like you said, backtrack. I mean, and then what's going to actually be the official cut of the movie? I mean, I don't know exactly how this is going to work. Part of me, and this sucks, that I feel like I might contribute to the problem, and it's not because I'm super stoked on it, it's because I'm morbidly curious.
Yeah, I didn't like Deadpool 2 as an R-rated film. I'll probably like it less as a PG-13, so they won't get any money out of me. But
You
I
didn't
think a
like
lot of
it.
people will see it. No, I didn't like Deadpool 1 or 2. I'm glad they exist. Don't like them.
What do you like?
Not comic book movies, apparently.
No, I don't blame you.
Comic books.
It's fine. All right. Well, yeah, I'm curious. I am. I really am. I don't want to go pay to see it. I don't want to go pay to see it, but I do kind of want to see it. Yeah, I know. Well, it's fucked up. So, in addition to this going on, everything got shuffled over at Fox, which is weird timing because of the Marvel thing. But that said, Fox updates Dark Phoenix, Alita, Gambit release dates. Oh yeah, that's funny. Gambit's got a release date again. So let's see.
We're never seeing Gambit.
Oh no, it couldn't possibly happen, right? Okay, Dark Phoenix trailer just dropped 2 days before it switched places from February 4th to June 7th. So we got February, March, April, May, June. That's like a 5-month difference. That's a pretty big difference. It's the latest in a slew of date changes. It also says that Battle Angel Alita is moving from December 21st to that February 14th. It's a smart move on Fox's end because it would have faced stiff competition against Aquaman, Spider-Man, Into the Spider-Verse, and the Transformers film Bumblebee. Those are two, it says, unsurprising changes. Then Gambit will begin filming in 2019. Until now, that is. Now it's June 7th. Oh, excuse me. It has moved to March 13th, 2020. So basically, dates aside, they've pushed the big tentpole comic book movies that they had back a little bit. And it's really weird that they did release the trailer before they did that. I mean, what's going on? What kind of interpretation of this do you have?
To me, the only explanation is it has to do something with the Disney-Fox merger. I just don't understand any of this. I'm really disappointed to see Battle Angel. I was super excited for it. I love Robert Rodriguez. I think it looks very interesting. I love anime. I cannot wait for that film. So it's disappointing. I don't understand the logic behind it. I don't know if they're... I don't know. It just seems weird. And as far as Gambit's concerned, it makes me wonder: is this going to be the first X-Men MCU film? Are they pushing it into that? Right. That's a weird one to start with an X-Men MCU film. I don't know. Weird. It just seems weird. Yeah, it's bizarre.
So Alita, I'm fascinated because I'm a fan of Robert Rodriguez, despite the fact that the dude is real fucking hit and miss. He's made as many bad movies, if not more, than he has good movies. But Desperado was one of my favorite movies. Love this music in that movie, and just it's fucking cool, dude. So I was excited to see that Robert Rodriguez was directing Alita because the source material is super fucking cool. The trailers have got me a little bit. They haven't really moved the needle for me that much. I do think the special effects are impressive, but it's still Uncanny Valley type thing for me. Never do I look at Alita and be like, wow, that's a real person actually there existing. But I am curious to check it out. That's the one movie on this list that's not just a superhero movie, so that's kind of cool. I don't know. I kind of agree with you. It's got to be because of the Fox-Disney merger. I don't know exactly... With the Deadpool thing, I think we both agree that it's probably testing the water to see if it will work within the Marvel Universe. That said, I don't understand how pushing the other movies back would benefit Fox or Disney. I don't know if they want to sink the extra money into them to make sure that they go out on a high note with movies that people like that were financially successful, or if it has something to do with behind-the-scenes type finances and contracts to where Marvel is going to actually make the money off of the movies. I don't know what's going on.
The X-Men one puzzles me the most, the Dark Phoenix one, because to me, you would think they would kind of just want to get this out and usher out that era and usher in the new era. So it kind of seems weird to delay that any further. You think you'd almost want to get it out there, give it a little bit of breathing room before you reboot it into the MCU, make people miss X-Men, be that much more excited when they get into the MCU. So I find that one more bizarre than any of the others.
That's a good point, because everybody seems very set on this idea of the X-Men being brought into the MCU, which I don't love that idea. As you and I have talked about, I like the idea of having separate vision, separate filmmakers, people with different ideas. Again, I think Marvel and Disney would do a great job with it, as I think they usually do. But that said, I don't like the idea of one corporation running the entire movie industry. So I'm weary about the whole thing. I don't know. I haven't really loved any of the X-Men movies. What's your favorite X-Men movie?
I would probably say, well, definitely the reboots. Well, not the reboots, I guess, but the prequels are that. The First Class is good. I pretty much enjoy all of them. First Class, Days of Future Past. I never saw Apocalypse, another one that I owned that I just never got around to. But I enjoy all of them. Well, the first and the third are bad. The original I only like X2. But of the new ones, I pretty much enjoy all of them.
I think my favorite is First Class. Days of Future Past is pretty good too. I think First Class has got some dumber moments in it, but I also think it's got some way better moments in it than any of the other X-Men movies. In particular, everything Magneto does in First Class is fucking awesome. Like, that should have been the movie.
Oh, Michael Fassbender as Magneto is amazing. Like, he's so perfect for that role.
Yeah, the Apocalypse has one great scene in it, and it's a Magneto scene, you know?
I'm just hoping that we can get... The one good thing that can come out of this is maybe we can get a non-British Professor X.
I don't think that happens anymore.
I don't think so either. I think the movies have, like, rebooted that, essentially.
Well, yeah, even Superman's a Brit.
I know, they're all British.
That's fine.
I'm fine. Just don't put the accent in the movie. Just make him an American like he is in the comics.
Fucking America. Born and raised. All right, so what about the New Mutants? This is one that's been kind of in production hell for a while, and it just real weird. They released a trailer to this like 6 months to a year ago, right?
Yeah, it has to be a year at this point. Originally, I heard it was going to be like an R-rated horror film, and the trailer kind of looked at that. Then it was PG-13. This thing seems like it's just caught in production hell.
So it says the New Mutants was originally set to be released in theaters in April of 2018. Then it was pushed back to February, and then later pushed all the way to August 2019. The reason for this delay was to reshoot certain scenes that apparently the creative team behind the movie... led by director Josh Boone, still have yet to go back and do the reshoots. So these reshoots that they've been needing to do are still up in the air, and according to producer Simon Kinberg, it could be rated R?
Yeah, I will be floored if it's rated R.
Yeah, everything could be rated R. You know what I mean? That's a fucking non-statement. Bambi could have been rated R.
Now. They do that now. Oh, Venom's going to be rated R. Oh, gotcha. No, it isn't.
Yeah.
You know, they do that with every comic book movie anymore.
Oh, did you hear Tom Hardy say when they asked him what his favorite part of the movie is? He was basically like the 45 minutes they cut out of it.
Yeah, and that's what it seems like a lot of these studio movies are doing, these comic book movies, is they hire a director, they let him direct a film, and then they freak out that it's not this cookie cutter overseen. At least Marvel, as generic and milquetoast as those films come off to me, they start off like that. Like they're so oversaw that they don't let. It's not like DC or Fox where they give a director creative control, then afterwards go, no, let's take away all your creative control. It's a bizarre way to make a film.
Yeah, it really is. And you see people like Jason Statham push back against it. And what is it, Turtletop that directed Meg? Jason Statham's like, I signed up to do a gory R-rated movie. And then, this is not what the movie was originally supposed to be. And nothing like having your lead actors come out and be like, this ain't what I fucking wanted to do. But the director, Kinberg said, it's the kind of movie that could go R, or it could be a hard PG-13. As I was saying before, in terms of subgenres or the genre, it's obviously teases a horror film, and most horror films these days are R-rated. But it stars a very young cast, so we'll see. It really is what the movie wants to be. The studio is open to either rating. Traditionally, superhero movies are PG-13 other than Logan and Deadpool, and generally horror movies are rated R. So we'll see where this one falls. It's a very scary, edgy movie.
Yeah, that's prepping everyone for this is going to be PG-13 statement.
It is. That's what I read. Like, you read between the lines, and it's like, Yeah, and then the director actually said, this is a quote he came out with a couple months back. He said, this movie is probably the hardest PG-13 movie ever made. I mean, we've pushed it. The horror is pretty dark, but there's also an emotional core, too. If I can scare you and make you cry, that's the goal.
Well, he might make me cry. I'll say that.
Yeah, this is a stupid article. Geek Tyrant wrote this one up. It's just a non-story. Like, it could be. Yes, it could be. It could be rated PG-13 or R. It could really be rated anything because it hasn't even been shot yet. It's 50% of the movie has to be redone, and it's so weird. I'm going to go ahead and see if I can play the trailer without the audio.
Yeah, 50% redone is just, that's alarming.
Yeah,
that's like into like Justice League territory, and we know how that turned out.
Yeah, I mean, hey, it could end up being a great movie at this point. And what it says to me, though, is it wasn't when it started out, you know?
Or it was, but it was just too
good?
It could have been a phenomenal movie.
Yeah.
No, it could have just been not traditional enough. I think you see that all the time. I guarantee you there's a better Justice League out there. There's a better Suicide Squad out there that they wouldn't have touched. There's a better Batman versus Superman out there, you know, that if they would have just allowed these things to breathe, but instead studios go, non-creative type business types go, well, let's look at the analytics. Let's see who would come out for this film. Let's see how they would make it. And then they chop it up to fit that vision.
Yeah, you're 100% right. I think more times than not, like when you look at something like the Fantastic Four, it was the studio coming in and saying, this isn't superhero movie enough. Where what it honestly, if I had to guess in this case, I honestly believe that they were saying this isn't horror movie enough, which is cool.
Which is cool. If that's what they're going, like, hey, we wanted even more of a horror film, that's cool.
Yeah.
But still, even then, I kind of just want to see the movie he wanted to make. I think those are the brilliant films. Like, even we just talked about Enemy. That's a movie that they wanted to make. I don't know if I like it, but it's a brilliant film.
Yeah, like the movies that you and I have discussed on this podcast so far, you know, like Hold the Dark, or the one, say again, what was the name of the one you mentioned?
Animal World.
Animal World. They're probably not as accessible to all audiences, but they are a distinct vision, a distinct voice. This is a movie by an auteur. And I think there's a place for all of it. I don't dislike the blockbuster landscape, and I actually like talking about all this stuff because I have been a fan of a lot of the comic book characters and things for, since 1992 or something like that. So I do enjoy it. I am usually excited to see the next one that comes out. Sony in particular has mishandled a lot of the characters in the past, but I do think that Fox has done a really good job with some of their properties.
I personally, for me, like all the X-Men movies more than most of the MCU films. Not all of them. X-Men 1 is garbage. X-Men 3 is garbage. But even Deadpool. I always say this all the time. Deadpool was not for me because I realized while watching Deadpool, I don't like the character Deadpool. But it's so nice that they took a chance and they made a movie that is a Deadpool movie, and Logan is a Wolverine movie. And I love stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I got the docket over to you this afternoon, I saw that you had mentioned the Last Jedi study that just now came out. A study on The Last Jedi's Twitter haters finds that, many were bots or bad faith political trolls. And I think this is really fascinating, despite the fact that the title itself is a little misleading, and when you do get into the nuts and bolts of the study, there are lots of holes in it. However, it does also reveal a kind of interesting thing that I've never really taken into consideration before, but what's your hot take on this? What just first, real broadly, do you think that Russian bots are responsible for the critical failure or the fan failure with The Last Jedi?
I think anything's possible, and to act like we're not all manipulated by social media or mainstream media or whatever. We're all manipulated all the time, constantly. That's how culture's shaped. So anyone, of course, is a possibility. I think there's also this crazy hysteria, and this reminds me of Gamergate. I don't know how familiar you are with Gamergate.
I am.
Yeah, so pretty much Gamergate was like, hey, if you don't like this, it's because you're a racist, sexist, bigot, homophobe, this, and this. And that's kind of been the narrative that's being pushed with The Last Jedi. Oh, you don't like Last Jedi? It's because you hate women and you hate this. There are those people. Obviously, we've talked about them before. But I feel like all of that is kind of caught up in this. This is like all of that combined with like Trump derangement syndrome and Russia, just all balled together in a ball of craziness that I just find frankly hysterical. I changed my profile. It says Russian bot now inside my Twitter profile because I think it's funny. You know, it's just an insane story to me. And like you said, there are so many holes. It's such a small sample size that this doesn't sound like the most scientific study.
Well, yeah, okay. So first of all, it was 967 tweets that this Professor Morton Bay analyzed. Of those 967 tweets, each from a separate account. Oh, he analyzed ones that were directed at director Rian Johnson over the period of December 13th to July 20th, using sentiment analysis to sort the tweets as positive, negative, or neutral, and then analyzing the accounts themselves. Bay found that 50.9% of those tweeting negatively were likely politically motivated or not human. To break that down, basically what he's saying is they went through nearly 1,000 tweets that were directed at Rian Johnson. And then they went to those people's Twitter accounts and they looked and they said, this person created a Twitter account to attack Rian Johnson, or this guy primarily promotes political stuff. They're talking about Donald Trump. They're talking about Black Lives Matter. They're talking about hot button social issues and things like that. And then they tweet about The Last Jedi. That said, obviously tons of people that watch The Last Jedi don't have Twitter accounts, or just because they say something negative about The Last Jedi or positive doesn't mean they actually added Rian Johnson in it. So yeah, it's a very small little sample size of a very specific kind of test, which I think is hard to draw anything conclusive at all from this test. That said, if there is 5% of the feedback we got was from Russian bots, I mean, that's a problem, right?
I mean, it's a problem if you're really that tied up in Star Wars. I mean, do you think that had that much cultural impact on, I don't know, whatever? And this study also says, you know, they were politically motivated. That's also a little bit up into interpretation. I tweet out a lot of political stuff, make a lot of jokes. I actually didn't mind The Last Jedi, but if I were to tweet out something negative about Last Jedi, would I have been lumped into this politically motivated category? There's a good possibility I could.
Sure.
I tweeted out something today about that guy who kicked the pro-life woman in the face, and I retweeted it and said, nothing's more pro-woman than kicking a woman. You know, that's like a political thing. You know, and that's a political thing. So if I tweet that and then tweet out a Last Jedi thing, I feel like there's this, like I said, it's that Trump derangement syndrome, alt-right hysteria, which there are alt-righters that are all these white nationalists. But I saw it happen in the video game industry. I've seen it happen time and time again where it's, oh, these people didn't like this. Well, let's achieve a motive to them and let's bring out the boogeyman, which is Russia currently at the point. And I didn't find this study super convincing when I read it. I found it seemed very politically motivated as much as these apparent accounts were politically motivated.
Well, and that brings up a very fascinating point. What does political mean? Does it depend on what side of the fucking aisle you're on? Because politically motivated, does that mean that somebody was tweeting about Hillary the whole time and then all of a sudden they made a negative post to Rian Johnson? Or is it they are pro-Trump and they had a negative criticism against The Last Jedi?
You know what it is. It's a conservative.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's exactly what that means.
But then on the flip side of that, when you look at these alt-right people and they say, I'm tired of Star Wars being so political, they're not talking about it being political. They're talking about it being progressive or including... and again, I said alt-righters. I'm not lumping everybody into that category, but the people that were... had so much vitriol and so much venom that they literally did run Kelly Marie Tran off of Twitter. That actually did happen. And again, I think you're right. We focus on this, this, I don't know what you called it, hysteria. What was it called? Trump hysteria?
They call it Trump. Trump derangement syndrome.
Trump derangement syndrome. Yeah, there absolutely is that going on, and it's a clickbaity kind of title, but I feel like it further divides the ability to have civil discourse about something, because it undermines the fact that people do have legitimate criticisms about the movie, and it's not connected to their political ideology. It might just be their preference for storytelling. But this is something you said, almost assigning a narrative or creating excuse for why people dislike or like a movie. And I feel like the first time that I was exposed to this was when a lot of the DC movies were getting panned and everybody was saying that Marvel and Disney were paying critics.
Mm-hmm. Which is absolutely ridiculous when that narrative was going around. I remember that was. If you want to use like I said, the narrative that I think we're all manipulated, absolutely. We all give into pressures and social pressures. That's just how culture works. So there is some of that, where people go, yeah, I like this is because it's popular and this and that. There is some of that, but I think people just have different opinions. As someone who, you like MCU, I don't think you're a bot or you were paid off. Right. It's an asinine standpoint, and I feel like all of this is clickbait. I also feel like there is this I don't want to sound like this because it makes you sound like a crazy person, but there is, from certain groups on the left, just like from certain groups on the right, there is this attack to undermine, be like, hey, those people, that 50% of the country that you disagree with, well, they're really not 50%. You hear it on the left and the right. No, they are. We're divided pretty evenly in this country. It's like 30-30 and well, maybe United and 30 in the center, but there's pretty comparable numbers of left and right. And I think you're allowed to disagree with Star Wars on a political level. There are political statements in Last Jedi. There's political statements definitely in Han Solo. You're allowed to watch those movies and go, I disagree with this movie and I disagree with the political statement. If you don't want someone disagreeing with your political statement, don't put any political statements in your movie. That being said, I feel like politics are on the table of film. That's the joy of art. That's half the purpose of art.
It is, absolutely. I could not agree more. And for people that don't understand the correlation between the Empire and Nazi Germany in World War II, I just have to question, like, when was Star Wars not political,
I will take the opposite stance of that. Star Wars was not. If Star Wars had came out when Nazis were around, it would have been a political movie. They were making current political statements, which is an entirely different thing than a culture that's completely agreed upon that Nazis are bad. They have some Black Lives Matter and all that. That being said, they're allowed to have those stances. They're allowed to push a political agenda as a film. They absolutely are. Fans are allowed to push back. That's kind of this free exchange, how this whole thing works.
I agree.
And I don't think Disney's evil for having a political viewpoint, just like I don't think all the fans were. I think if you're specifically attacking anyone, left, right, or center, if you're attacking anyone verbally, I always say assaulting, because assault and battery are two different things. You can assault someone. Verbal assault is a real thing. That's what the term means. Battery is a physical assault. But if you're assaulting someone, that's entirely different. If you're getting in someone's face or you're screaming at them and calling them horrible names, that's different. But you're allowed to say, okay, Kelly Marie Tran's character is an awful character. I will stand by that. That is a bad character. She is completely pointless in the movie, and she's pretty annoying in every scene.
Don't disagree with you.
Don't attack her.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I don't disagree with you there. Hannah actually had a pretty good point. She says, with the rise of identity politics as well, virtually anything could be considered politically motivated. I want to kind of key in on the difference between, like you said, Caleb, part of the fun of art is being able to infuse it with whatever kind of commentary you so choose. That's what art is for. It's an expression of ideas. That said, I think that there's a huge difference. There's a fine line, or there's a big difference between infusing your story with your political ideology is different from creating propaganda to socially engineer people. And I feel like the real fringe people that are anti The Last Jedi feel like there's an indoctrination going on, and that it's an agenda that's bigger than just the screenwriters and the director's perspective, but that it's something systematic. Do you think that there's anything to that?
I think we're always constantly indoctrinated. One of my favorite films of last year was an entire indoctrination, politically motivated film. That was The Shape of Water. It's actually an identity politics movie that I disagree politically with almost pretty much every point in that entire film. But it's a phenomenal movie because I'm an adult and I'm able to look at something and go, yeah, I might disagree with the politics behind it, but you made one hell of a movie. And I think, yeah, we're always indoctrinated, and it makes sense. I understand. As much as I hate the alt-right, I understand where their frustrations lie when you see an entire industry and an entire media having an opposite point of view and being told that, hey, if you don't like these things, you're a racist or you're a homophobe or you're whatever. I understand the reaction. I do. I don't agree with it, but I do understand the reaction, and I can see it as indoctrination when you see. Let's be real. When people always try to act like liberalism's the counterculture, I'm like, get out of your mind. Liberalism is the mainstream culture. Yeah. Progressivism. Yeah. Like it's not. Counterculture is conservative at this point. But so it's understandable to have that feeling. But I do think the company is allowed to make whatever political statement. The directors are allowed to make whatever political statement. And if you have a problem with it, guess what? Don't go see episode 9. That's the best thing you can do. But no one can vote with their wallet.
And Venice Beach, I also agree with you. He says it's impossible to know what's sarcasm and what isn't just reading a few tweets. Jokes can easily be taken the wrong way. And I think a lot of times people misidentify people making snarky comments as trolls. And sometimes I don't even know if that's the same thing. It's like irony is lost on these fucking people because texts are tone deaf, right? You can't hear the tone of voice. So a lot of times they just take it all at literal face value, and I think that is just oversimplification of people. I don't know. I do think that it's interesting. I think that so there was the Marvel and Disney paying critics. I was wondering, do you think that taking critics to premieres is the same as, it's not bribing them, but it's almost like prying them with alcohol and trying to get them to hook up with you?
Yeah, I think you're priming them. You're getting them into a proper state to enjoy your film. Same thing was going on for years with the video game industry. They would fly people across the world, put them in hotels, and be able to play the video game there, and then write a preview of it and all that. It's the same thing, and that's smart. Honestly, on the company's end, let's make them feel good about it. Let's keep them happy. And there are fringe people who I'm sure lean into that to keep getting the perks. More than that, I think there's actually people who lean into opinions to stay relevant on YouTube and stuff like that.
Yeah, of course. I
think that's a bigger problem, personally.
Well, and that's there's a lot to unpack here, but The Last Jedi was the other, big example of like what we're discussing right now, how people will use a story, like they didn't want to hear that Batman v Superman wasn't good. They didn't want to accept that. There must be a reason why. And then on the other side of that, people don't like the new Star Wars movie. There's got to be some deeper reason why. What the fuck is wrong with these people that they don't like the movies that I like? There's got to be something wrong. And I feel like it's just reaching. I do. Both of us have said it. There are people out there who are shitty. There are people out there who are shitty that love The Last Jedi. It really has nothing to do one or the other. So I think it's interesting. Like I did mention, it's does delegitimize true opinions. But it feels like now this is just a way for studios to blame they can now blame critics on being fake or being bots, and it reminds me of Gotti in that way.
Well, and I think they're doing this thing I just keep seeing parallels with Gamergate and all this stuff. Attacking your audience constantly and telling them how they're shitty people and you're so much superior than them. It doesn't work. There's a video game, 2064 read-only memories or something. I wanted to play it. In the game, looks great. The guy started attacking all people like gamers. He's like, a Gamergate. He's like, if you voted for Trump, don't play my game. I didn't vote for Trump, but still, I saw that and was like, yeah, you're an ass. I'm not going to buy your game now. Don't attack your fan base. I'm not going to sit here and stare at anyone who's in the YouTube comments right now be like, well, you've disagreed with me. It's because you're an awful human being. That's ridiculous. Sometimes people disagree with you, and that's okay. People are allowed to have different political opinions. That's okay. Mm-hmm. People are allowed to connect with things different. It's just that's the world, and that's how adults should handle it.
I don't know that it always comes across, in our comment section or to our viewers and listeners, but I think that's kind of the point of this whole thing. I think that's kind of what you and I do is present different ideas, try to constructively delve into it and understand the motives on both sides. I mean, there does always need to be nuance to discussions, and to paint with such broad strokes that if you don't like The Last Jedi, you're all right, which honestly, that's not what this article said. If you read past the headline, but that's just the nature of this clickbaity culture that we're in right now. And you had kind of mentioned how we're all constantly being indoctrinated or constantly being molded by society. I think that's even in the critic community. You don't want to be the one dummy. You don't want to be the one person that's like, oh, you guys all like that movie, I think it sucks, what's wrong with my critical eye or my critical mind? And that's why I find so much like parroting within this community, where people just kind of say what they've heard before because it makes them feel credible, I think.
Yeah, and that's one of those things that's always bothered me. That's why I think why you and me kind of started linking up is we have very different opinions on film, a lot. And I don't think you're an idiot for having those opinions, and you stand by them. Even if I'm like, hey, Jeremy, I disagree with you. You're like, yeah, cool, I disagree with you. But we don't, like, it's so easy, especially people in our position where we're interacting with each other all the time, to be like, hey, I actually think we have a great system where we live across the country, so we don't hang out in real life, we don't see movies together, so we are allowed to view it through our own eyes and then come together and talk about it, which I think is, and we're both genuine. I don't think either of us is doing this for like I would love to grow, of course, but I'm doing it because I love talking about movies. I love People Are Terrible, talking about topics, and I tell people all the time, especially if People Are Terrible, we're going to talk about more controversial stuff. The one thing I can promise you is I will give my honest opinion. I'm not opposed to changing my opinion if new facts are presented. And we could do People Are Terrible for 10 years, and I could have an entirely different view on everything and look back and go, I was wrong on all my own videos, and that's fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. That's a really good point. And I mentioned the press screenings thing. I think that another weird thing that's going on right now, that a recent development that I kind of teased up at the top here, is that there was this conversation about fans of Lady Gaga going and writing negative reviews about Venom to keep people from going to see Venom to go see A Star Is Born.
Yeah, what the fuck? Honestly, if you're one of those people, kill yourself. Just do it.
Seems
just
misguided.
Get you out of the hair. It's ridiculous. I mean, first of all, if you're one of these people who's going to fall for one of those reviews and not see a movie you were hyped on because other people said negative things about it, also kill yourself. Let's just get rid of all the dummies in one suit. just if you want to see a movie, see a movie. And if you don't want to see, like, I actually do think A Star Is Born looks good.
Oh, it looks great.
But let's say it looks fantastic. But if I didn't want to see it because Lady Gaga kind of bugs me, I would never waste my time writing negative reviews. Like, I have other shit I gotta do in my life.
Yeah. It's weird. It's weird because I don't know how big of a crossover audience there would even be from one to the other, or why you can't go see both. Like, why single out Venom? Like, what the fuck did Venom ever... Where did Venom hurt you?
I have no idea, man. I agree. I never even thought of these movies as competition with one another.
No.
They're entirely different audience. The only people who might see both are people like you and me.
Right. People who go see every movie.
Yeah, like, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to A Star Is Born. I smell food. We'll go ahead and wrap this thing up. Thank you guys so much for coming by to hang out. It's been fun. It's been real. It's been real. It's been fun. But it has also been real fun. Caleb, thanks for coming by again. Always fun.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man, of course. We've got People Are Terrible coming up Monday, Wednesday, Friday. There's actually a new video that just dropped today. Stay tuned for new episodes coming to you soon. And if you enjoyed this video, do me a favor, take just a second to smash that little thumbs up button right there. And if you want to stay up to date with all of the terrible content, all you got to do is subscribe, click the bell for notifications, go out into the yard, do some sort of weird like rain dance, and hope for the best. Hope for the best. And until next time, and on behalf of both of us, be terrible. Bye.